It is a very big day for us here in Breakfast. It is our 25th birthday.
Yeah, so we thought we'd have a bit of a celebration, bring back some familiar faces, have a good old rummage in the archives. So now on BBC One, it's
Breakfast time. Good morning. 25 years ago today, we made television history. Breakfast Time went on air, becoming the first regular early morning TV show in Europe.
And Selina, of course, was there on the very first morning alongside Frank Boff. Today, we're turning back the clock, recreating the original studio and reuniting many of the old team. And I have squeezed into this jumper. How small is Glyn Christian?
He is so tiny, and he is still tiny. He's here today. I mean, you've got it written on the back. Turn, my dear. Don't you look cute in that? Yeah.
I'm going to have to breathe in between various sections of this programme, but we've got an action-packed programme. Here's what's coming up.
We'll bring you some of the best and funniest moments from the archives of the last 25 years.
Stop it. Get your finger out of it.
The Green Goddess tried to get Britain fit, but what would commuters now think about a morning workout? We're live at Waterloo Station to find out.
We, of course, had Breakfast Time, and on the other side there were the so-called Famous Five. We talked to Angela Rippon about the Battle of Breakfast.
And we'll be reuniting many of the team that launched Breakfast Time.
All that and more still to come on this special anniversary edition of BBC Breakfast.
So what do you think of the set? We've tried our very best.
Well, you've done a brilliant job. I mean, you've got the logos, you've got lighting, you've got everything, except the sofas aren't quite right. It's a funny colour, isn't it?
They're a bit paler than the other ones. Interesting story about the originals. They were apparently up in the 5th or 6th floor at the BBC for something like 25 years. I think I had my packed lunch there when I first came to the BBC, and they were sold off about 6 months ago.
But do you know something? Those sofas were bought from Harrods, were very expensive. And Ron Neal, the producer, took me along and said, "What do you think?" I said, "I don't like them." But he bought them anyway. And then he had to get them from Switzerland for the show because they couldn't be delivered in time for the start, January the 17th.
BBC got their money's worth, 25 years.
BBC sent a truck over there specially.
Now, anything else you're happy with, I think?
Yes.
We just better double-check with Frank Boff.
Yes,
OK?
yes.
Because this is how it started originally.
Now, as you can see, our home is very, very relaxed and informal, and we really do think that that is the right setting from which to bring you interviews with people and personalities who are making the day's news. Now then, let me tell you just one important thing. Time, at this time of the morning, for the next 2 or 3 hours, is of the essence to all of us. So we need our clock. Here is our clock. That's the time, and there it will stay. But now I'd like you to meet the other faces whom we hope will become regulars over your breakfast table. Miss Selina Scott, you must be awfully...
A good job.
We've,
Keep it up, my
We've only
dear.
been going for about a minute. Do you think we're winning so far?
I think we're winning. Yeah, I think we're winning.
I've got it with me.
She hasn't checked. See, already
Oh, yeah,
she's
yes.
chatting away. Does that turn back the clock for you?
Yeah, well, Mike's just saying... I'm going to introduce Mike in a minute or two. There he is, and there's Sue.
Behave, you two, over there.
Mike's just reminded me that I had a lot of criticism about that nanny outfit, didn't I?
We thought it was a nurse's outfit that Ron had bought you in Harrods.
It was very fashionable that time, though. It's
Thank you,
absolutely the fashion.
Sue. Thank you.
OK, now, before we catch up with those two, we've got one more thing to do to recreate the studio.
Yes.
We're going to get rid of that digital clock,
Yes.
and we're going to bring back the old clock.
Oh, clever.
Does that make you feel at home?
Very.
I can't tell the time on that one. It's something like the big hands on the 20... Oh, anyway.
Yes, it's 25 to 9.
Thank you very much
There you
indeed.
are.
That must be time to introduce our guests.
It certainly is. Frank Boff and Nick Ross were, of course, two of our famous faces on the sofa in the morning, but we had two other famous faces, too. They would regularly wake up to Mike Smith and Sue Cook, who have joined as well. Mike and Sue, what does it feel like for you two? I mean,
It's kind of deja vu, isn't it? Although, as you say, the sofas are wrong, which makes a big difference. But no, it's strange that it's such a long time ago.
I've
Yes.
taken a diplomatic decision this morning.
What's that?
All the stories I was going to tell, I've sent to America for safekeeping. And I'll tell them in a few years' time when I'm not here. That's probably the best thing. It's strange seeing you
Yes.
Because you don't look any different.
Neither do you.
Well,
But thank you, Mike.
excuse me.
No.
You can't grow a beard, I can. But you don't, and you sitting here, that logo, the only difference is that Frank's got hair.
I know, thank you very much. I'll try my very best to, oh God, imitate what a legend. How did you get involved? What happened for you? So the phone call, what happened?
It was to do with Selena, I think, going on holiday, because Nationwide had just finished in the summer, and they didn't know what to do with me. I was hanging around Lime Grove, and you went on holiday, obligingly, and so I sat in for Selena when you were on holiday, and after that I was, you know, deputy.
So many famous people have sat on this sofa, you know, over, well, not this particular sofa, the one that was thrown
It's
out from the
replica,
BBC. We have a clip of 3 little boys who Mike dragged into the studio on a regular basis. And let's take a look at this.
Enjoyed it?
Yeah, it was great. I think it was actually based at the ages of about 9 and 8 because the storyline was a bit feeble, but that wasn't really very necessary. The large percentage of the filming was in the toy store, as you saw there, and it was really beautiful because it was all made out of wood with carved animals and fruits in it and painted lovely bright colours. And
Magical?
magical,
a
very
magical film, lots of
yes.
magic in it?
Yeah, that's right.
It's cute.
Hey,
Which one?
Jude Law.
You.
Launched a career there.
Jude Law was 12 years old. We used to do a thing in the school holidays where we do, you know, special bits of programme because the kids were at home. These days, of course, kids aren't up to watch Breakfast Time, so it doesn't matter. But in those days, they were, and so we did film reviews, and Jude Law came in, 12 years old from Wimbledon, and did reviews for us on a regular basis. And everybody forgot about it, you know, and then the years go by, and you notice this young actor coming up. And one day I went, hang on a minute, Jude Law, I remember that name, and I looked back through a collection of sad videotapes I've got, and sure enough, there he was.
Don't make me laugh.
No, well, I've got stuff I've sent in a sealed envelope to America about you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
You haven't got everything, though, have you? Because we've been looking through the archive. Just have a look
no.
at this. You talk about the sofas. You couldn't necessarily negotiate the old ones, could you? One, I've got to ask about what you're wearing, but then you fell through the gap of the sofa.
That's an interesting fashion moment you picked on there, Chris. That, OK, there was a thing, wasn't there? Do you remember? You weren't born. You were
No,
still, you
I
were
was
still
just going to school at the time, but there you are.
Yeah, well, you were a sperm at the time. You weren't even born. That outfit was very much related to the sort of back end of the New Romantics. It was a green string vest. I don't know what it was.
Give us a break.
I think it was from Flip in Covent Garden.
Well,
she got taken to Harrods. We got taken to Flip in Covent Garden. That was the difference.
You
I'm
got
gonna
taken
ask you-
anywhere. I don't think I got took anywhere. I
I'm
was
going to ask
taking
you,
myself.
Sue, about... Did you get the feeling, especially... I mean, I'm looking back now. You were making history at the time.
I was making history.
Yeah, making
Yes.
breakfast television.
Well, yes, of course we were. Yes, it was breaking new ground. It was fantastic. And you mentioned Ron Neal. It was Ron Neal, our editor's kind of vision, wasn't it, to have this relaxed, informal breakfast time, and nobody was to shout at anybody, and everything was to be calm and easy to assimilate. And yeah, we were breaking new ground. People were shocked, though, weren't they? Breakfast television at breakfast time. How outrageous!
Cambridge University had a debate at the time.
Did they?
Do we really need breakfast television
Yes.
in Britain? And it was a close-run thing. I don't think they really wanted it at all.
Still going on.
Yeah.
It's still going on.
But you see, with these strange, on the serious side of life, you had to, you know, the gear changes were immense, weren't they? And a gear change, I mean, you got the miners' strike going on, and it was a grim time in the history of this country. And then suddenly Glenn Christian would be cooking a pancake, you know, and you've got to switch across from those things, these items. And those things were actually quite difficult to achieve, and a lot of thought went into that. And you had this constant cultural battle at the BBC between the news people and the softer, more fluffy, feature-driven people.
It still
Does that
goes
still
on.
happen?
It still goes on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, both of you. Yes,
you.
we'll talk to you a bit later on, I think, if you're still in a good mood. Well, presenters are not the only things that have changed in the last 25 years. The programme itself, would you believe, has had 3 different names.
It certainly has. Graham Satchell looks back on a quarter of a century of breakfast television here in Britain.
You're watching the first edition of BBC Television's Breakfast Time. Britain's
Frank
first
Boff
ever
and a bit of
regular
British
early
television
morning
history.
Very
Breakfast Time was a heady mix. Aerobics, Russell Grant and hard news.
Good job.
It also introduced us to some familiar faces, like a young Fern Britton reading the news.
50 families.
And of course, there were crazy jumpers. Even political editor John Cole was wearing one.
The jumpers, we all became, I mean, the show became famous for the jumpers. It worked. It wasn't a problem. I'm not sure that we should have more courage and go back to that mix that Breakfast Time had at the beginning.
But very soon things changed. This is 1988. Already Breakfast Time was harder, bluer, more serious.
Good morning if you've just woken up. These are the news stories.
Fronted by Jeremy Paxman and Kirsty Walk, it was straight news.
By 1989, the transformation was complete. Breakfast Time became Breakfast News, and it was suits all round.
A very good morning to you from Jill and from me. The time is 7 o'clock. Good morning
wow.
to the first edition of the BBC's Breakfast News.
This was the kind of programme that I enjoyed doing because it was news. We did, serious interviews. That sounds terribly pompous, but I mean, that was, again, it was intended to be a television version of the Today programme.